Hey everyone, this is Thyworm and today I want to bring you my first ever build guide. Expect many more in the future, this is just the beginning. We will start with a build that can get you through master difficulty content without many issues. Here is my Lukian lightning wall build. I will take you through the philosophy behind the build, the skill tree choices, the gear choices, and finally show you how to effectively play the build with its skill combos, do's and don'ts, that sort of thing. Philosophy behind the build. This build has one main objective: to safely clear master difficulty missions. I've experimented with multiple lightning builds, tried out all skills available, and I believe this is the best build possible for this specific purpose. In order to stay safe, we focus on ranged abilities, fast casting times, lots of stuns and synergies between skills that allow us to escape tricky situations. This build is capable of keeping enemies away from you because of the lightning walls. It also has an insane reach, allowing you to attack enemies across the screen, shoot a bunch of enemies spawn on top of you. We have a few oh shit options as well. This build is not doing the most damage possible on Lukian. It is not the most ideal build to do endgame bosses either. There are other builds that are more suitable for that, which I will cover in time, no worries. But this build is a very effective build for late game missions on master difficulty. Skill tree. I'm assuming we have 30 potency points, or let's say are level 30 and have those amount of potency points. Even though we have 4 skill slots, we will only use 3. This allows us to spend more potency points in skills that are impactful without really sacrificing essential abilities. I'm going to take you through the skills I picked, how I modified them and why I made the choices I did. And after that, I will also tell you why I have not chosen some skills or modifications and my reasoning behind that. Keep in mind this is patch 0.5, so if you're watching this in 3 months from now, it might not be correct anymore. The point here is not that you should agree with me, but that you at least understand my thought process and that you can also use this as your thought process yourself to come up with your own creations. The 3 skills we're focusing on are Chain Lightning, Lightning Ring and Lightning Wall. Also, we modify our primary attack. And let's start with the primary attack, Lightning Strikes. We are picking all 3 modifiers here. Distraction adds 15% slow, which just helps a lot while kiting. And this build is very much about kiting and avoiding damage. Forks is a modifier that is just very powerful. By default, you hit 3 enemies. After modifying, for the cost of only your first attack hitting 2 enemies, now your 2 other attacks are suddenly hitting 4 and even 6 enemies. That's very powerful and helps clearing smaller packs. It also combos well with our Chain Lightning modifiers, but we'll get to that. Discharge is a mandatory modifier for any build, I would argue. The additional 3 meter range on your auto attacks is just too good to not invest points in. On to Chain Lightning. The main reason for picking this ability is the stun. This is the reason we only invest 1 point in the actual skill and not 3. We don't use this ability to damage our enemies, but we use it to set up a combo that does a lot of damage. To make this work, we invest in the Binding Lightning modifier. This modifier links enemies that are hit by this skill. Whenever one of those enemies receives damage, all other linked enemies receive damage as well. This works great with the before mentioned Forks modifier. It is also very amazing with Lightning Ring. The skill nodes towards the modifier increase the stun duration, which is useful. It's more crowd control, which is always good on big packs and master difficulty missions. We further modify the skills slightly by investing 2 points in Perun's Flock, allowing us to hit 2 additional enemies. Our second skill is Lightning Ring. We're picking this skill because of the damage and the slow. 350% lightning damage in this build is actually significant. The slow is simply a lifesaver to get out of sticky situations in combination with your shift ability. Once again, we are not investing the full 3 points in the skill itself. We need those potency points for our modifiers, and adding the 3rd potency point here would only give us more sunfire damage. And because this is a full lightning build, we don't need that. We are taking 2 modifiers here. The first is Perun's Fury, which summons additional lightning strikes that deal 150% lightning damage. This is just a very powerful modifier. All of this damage also worked on those linked enemies from Chain Lightning, increasing our DPS output significantly. It looks really amazing as well, all those lightning strikes across the screen. It does cost us 3 nodes that are not useful in this build, the Dabbox Judgment ones, but it is worth it. The second modifier is for some sustain. Primal healing is mandatory because on master difficulty missions you need some sustain. You can't only go by potions, but you should also aim for around 8k health, and replenishing that health using Lightning Ring is a good idea. This is your most used skill anyway, and 5% healing per enemy hit adds up quickly. Our third skill is Lightning Wall. This is the bread and butter of the build. Lightning Wall stuns enemies trying to pass through it. We want Lightning Wall to be active at all times, and we want it to last as long as possible, and we want it to cover a large area. We don't pick this skill for the damage, which is why, again, we're only investing a single point in it. The modifiers add to the utility of the Lightning Wall. Cross turns the wall into a cross, increasing the effectiveness and covered area considerably. The nodes towards cross increase the duration of wall, which is great as well. Excellence gives us an additional charge, which allows us to have at least one wall active at all times. The extension nodes leading to excellence increase the wall length, making it all in all a pretty big cross to hide behind, because that is the idea. But we'll get to that in the how to play section. Skills we skipped: Revolve, the rotating wall. It doesn't add much and makes the skill less predictable. We don't want that. Detonation, because we don't use Sunfire damage. Mastery, because we don't need additional charges of Chain Lightning. There is enough crowd control and damage in this build already. Inferno, because we don't use Sunfire damage. Lightning Incarnate, this skill is a good way to get yourself killed in master difficulty. You could use it to escape, but we have enough escape tools as it is. Not worth the investment. Sigil of Pagan we skipped. Lightning walls are just better for crowd control. That's basically why we're skipping this. I tried it in combination with Lightning Wall, but that was underwhelming. Lightning Disciple is a new skill, but it is not impressive. There's a casting time of around 1.5 seconds, which gets you killed on master. The spirit itself doesn't do much damage, and he just disappears after 16 seconds. I don't see this skill in its current form being useful in any build, to be honest. Let alone this build that doesn't even focus on damage. Now that we got the skills covered, let's look at the gear. And if you want to see me trying out builds live, I'm streaming this game as well Monday, Wednesday and Friday 8 PM Central European Time on twitch.tv/Thyworm. Gear. What's nice about this build is that good gear isn't really a requirement, because it is mostly a utility build. This means you're mostly never getting hit. You can play the build in such a way that you're safe for 95% of the time. Depending on your gear, your clear speed goes up or down, but in order to clear master difficulty content, the build itself is good enough. Gear just makes you clear everything a little faster. That being said, let's provide you with some general pointers here. A good staff with high weapon damage and flat lightning damage is really nice to have. Weapon damage and lightning damage are the base for all your skill damage calculations. All percentage modifiers from your skills, such as the 350% lightning damage from Lightning Ring, are applied to the sum of your weapon damage and flat lightning damage. So if you're looking to do more DPS, focus on those statistics. Of course, spell damage helps as well. Bonus lightning damage isn't too bad either. But rather than investing too much in damage, I would suggest you take some defensive stats as well. This build does allow you to clear the content without any resistance gear really, because you won't get hit. It helps, of course, but it's not required. I highly recommend some Astral Shield gear, however, to function as a buffer that regenerates in combat. This, combined with your Lightning Ring healing, should be able to handle any hits you might take, apart from a barrel or an invisible trap. But that's an issue with any build. The rest of your gear should therefore be focused on Astral Shield and Fortitude to increase that health to handle the occasional hit from enemies. How to play. There are two things you want to keep track of, basically. First, the most important thing is to make sure there is always a lightning wall between you and the enemies. Before entering an arena, it's good to already cast the lightning wall. That way it is there, you can hide behind it, escape through it. It just works. As long as there are walls in the arenas, you can use your shift ability to get the hell out of dodge and be safe. Second, there is a very good combo you should use. First, you cast your lightning wall, trapping a bunch of enemies. Then, you cast chain lightning on those enemies, stunning those enemies, but mainly linking them. Now, every damage to a linked enemy will also be dealt to any other linked enemy. So now, cast Lightning Ring. The damage is huge because every enemy is linked. Every linked enemy that comes in contact with Lightning Ring spreads that damage to other linked enemies, and basically everyone takes like 5 times the same amount of damage. as long as they are linked. On top of this, you summon the lightning strikes from the lightning ring and you have a beautiful combo that stuns, slows and deals massive amounts of lightning damage. Whenever you're low on mana, your primary attack refills this quickly. You're hitting enemies across the screen, you're hitting enemies 6 at a time, and for each hit you recover mana. If you weave in the occasional primary attacks, you won't run out. And that's it. This was very extensive but also hopefully clear. I'd love to get some feedback on this. Was it clear? Too long? Too short? Something I missed? Because I'll be making quite a few of these, is the plan. We're on the way to 1700 subscribers, over 1650 already. So if you enjoyed this content, subscribe as well and hit the bell icon. I'm putting out multiple videos per week with the latest news, patch notes, discussions, devlog dissections and guides and tutorials for Pagan Online, just like this one. This way you won't miss a thing. Thanks so much for watching. I will see you soon. Bye bye.